It's Tim Undorf with Central Valley Ag. We're talking about those 4 R's of nutrient management as it applies to both commercial fertilizer and manure management. This month we're going to talk about the right rate. Last month we talked a little bit about using the right product. We talked about using the right species of manure to kind of match up with what your field needs. This month we're going to talk about the right rate. When we think about the right rate, we need to think about that entire field. So in the past, maybe we looked at just making an application, the broadcast rate, the same amount of product everywhere, maybe 100 pounds of MAP or 50 pounds of potassium chloride. But now we can do a lot better job with grid sampling or zone sampling to deciding exactly what that field needs where. We've done that for quite a while now with commercial fertilizer, but now we can do that with manure as well. So working with Central Valley Ag, we can take a look at your soil samples and your manure samples and match that up. Let's look at a couple of samples as an example. We've got a manure sample here that's got about 30 pounds of P2O5 for phosphorus and 22 pounds of K2O as our potassium. So we've got an opportunity here to maybe spread out that phosphorus a little bit where we need it in higher rates in places and in lower rates where we don't need it quite as much. Or we could do the same thing with potassium. So let's take a look at a field and see what the practical application would be of this product. We've got some soil samples here that are across 3 different zones on a field, and we've got very low phosphorus values. So in zone 1, our phosphorus value is only 5 part per million. In zone 2, we're at 16 part per million, and at zone 3, we're at 24 part per million. So zone 1 needs a lot more phosphorus than, say, zone 3 does. All of the areas could use some phosphorus to keep with top production. I try to match it up to maybe around 20 to 25 part per million for our long-term build, but then also think about crop removal as we make our application. On the potassium side, zone 1's got 128 part per million. Zone 2's at 166 part per million, and zone 3's at 135 part per million. So we need potassium in all areas. I want to be somewhere in that 180 to 220 part per million range, again for top production. And of course I need to think about crop removal. So I'm going to want to build phosphorus levels in zones 1 and 2, keep them about where they are in zone 3. I want to build potassium levels across all 3 of the zones, but especially zones 1 and 3. So let's look at what that might look at for a total application rate and how we would vary it across that field. So here we've got our application map, and we can see that in zone 1, the pink area, we need a lot of phosphorus. So we've done a 25-ton application rate of this beef manure. In zone 2, that middle area, where we're sitting at about 16 part per million phosphorus, we've made a 15-ton application rate. So kind of a medium amount of manure being applied to cover a couple years of crop removal and give us some build. And then in that last zone, zone 3, we've got that 10-ton rate. We need to cover crop removal both for the phosphorus and the potassium, and especially the potassium. But we can back that rate off a little compared to what we're doing on average, and certainly what we're doing in zone 1 where we need that highest rate. Central Valley Ag can help you with these variable rate prescriptions. Just give us a call. We can do variable rate manure very similar to how we've done variable rate dry fertilizer in the past. We'll work with in conjunction with Sedchi Engineering to do that application if you need help, or we can write that prescription to use in your own equipment.